Hello, and thank you for tuning in to TheLayman'sQuery, the podcast where we take an educational journey into all things religion. My name is Zachary Masterson. Let's get started. Today I have the honor and the pleasure of speaking with the president of the Asatru Community, Mr. Henry. So, Mr. Henry, for myself and the listeners out there, in the very short time I've done research on the Asatru, it seems that Asatru isn't really just one religion, but kind of like a term that applies to a number of like the heathen religions, the old like Germanic religions and stuff like that. So, what exactly is an Asatru?
It is basically the followers of the Norse pagan tradition, which we follow the Norse pantheon of gods, Odin, Thor, and such. And you are somewhat correct in stating that Asatru kind of covers multiple things, because there are those that consider themselves to be Norse pagans, that consider themselves to be heathen, or that consider themselves to be like a Norse shaman, which all of those types can potentially fall under the umbrella of Asatru. And basically all Asatru means, which it's a combined term from the original Norse Asa, meaning the Aesir or the Aesir gods, and then true, which means a true follower. So those combined means basically what it's saying is a follower of the Aesir gods.
Okay, and then the Aesir gods, is that specific? That's the old Norse gods as we know them now, right? That's Odin, Thor, Loki, Frigga, and all of those.
Absolutely.
All right. So I was speaking with somebody at my work who identified as an Odinist, but he seemed to use the terms Odinist and Asatru interchangeably. Is that something that's fairly common, or is that...
It is common. A lot of times, well, first of all, there are some that consider themselves to be Odinists that would not say that they are Asatru. It's really just mostly a terminology thing. Asatru was actually founded in 1970 in Iceland. It was basically a rebirth of the original, beliefs of the Icelanders and the Norse that settled Iceland. And for the longest time, as Christianity took over there, it was actually outlawed to be a follower of the old ways, as it were. And there was two gentlemen that worked together to bring it back and make it a recognized religion again in Iceland, and it just kind of spread from there. Odinist, in my experience, and this again is not in every case, there are some that claim to be Odinists that also have some racist beliefs, I guess is the easiest way to explain it. They kind of side with the Nazi version of the beliefs in Odin. Again, not saying that all that claim to be Odinists are racist, but in my experience, most that are racist claim to be Odinists, not Asatru.
Okay. I guess for the next question I have with all that said, the Asatru community is just one of several, correct? Like, this is not the sole.
Yes.
This is not the sole body of the Asatru, but just
no. We are the largest in North America. We currently have about 4,500 members total. So there are other groups out there, like there's the Trough, which is a group that was founded in Texas, and they follow pretty much exactly the same beliefs that we do. The Asatru Community is considered to be a universalist Asatru group, which what that means is we accept anyone into our group that feels called to the path, regardless of their, race, their cultural background, or anything like that. We don't discriminate against anybody that feels called to the path. So there's a lot of smaller groups throughout the country. But we are the biggest, I guess you say, and we are an international group too. We've got members in South America, Great Britain, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa. So we do have members all over the world as well.
Okay, that's really cool. Kind of takes me a second to jump from question to question, so
You're fine. You're fine.
So, have your numbers been growing? Like, is the movement, is it expanding? Is it developing, or is it kind of stagnant? Is it waning? How is it faring with everything going on?
There has been a resurgence in paganism in general, especially within the last, I would say, decade within the United States. And I think part of that has to do with, I think there's a couple factors. First of all, I think it's more accessible now than it ever has been in the United States. I mean, there was a point in time, even back, I've been a pagan since like 1986 or something like that, because I'm old. But I didn't even know anything about Asatru until mid-90s. And I was a follower, more considered what would be called Wiccan originally, and then I followed a Celtic Druid path, because that's actually where my roots go. But once I had always felt drawn to the Norse pantheon of gods, and when it was like I had an epiphany one day, and it was like, well, there's got to be a Norse religion somewhere out there, and I started searching and found it. But yeah, I think accessibility is a big thing. I think what we see in the news with a lot of organized, what we would call organized religions, which is your Christian religions. I mean, we've seen a lot of negative things come about with them, with everything from child molestation to trying to suppress rights and beliefs of others, and misogyny and everything else. I think people are waking up to that's not what they want in their religion. They don't want all of these rules placed down upon them and things like that. And that's really not what Asatru and what most pagan beliefs are about. Most of it is what you would consider to be a nature-based religion, and most pagan belief systems is more about helping man and being kind and good to others, and taking care of our planet, as opposed to trying to build a big multi-million-dollar church and have thousands of followers give you all their money, things like that. It's just not what we're about.
No, that's
I think.
Oh, you can go ahead.
I think that's a big part of. Oh, I was going to say, I think that's a big part of why, and I mean, there's all kinds of academic papers that's talked about, the great swing. I mean, paganism is the fastest growing religion in the world right now. It's people going back to the old ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a man has tainted too many organized religions, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's something I've noticed for sure. That's I was raised Christian.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up leaving it about a little over half a year ago now. But
Mm-hmm.
to be honest, I found myself I've always found myself very intrigued by the old pagan religions and stuff like that. Like I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
no, I'm not looking to go get involved with one per se, but I do think there's something that's really
Mm-hmm.
interesting, and I know there's something that is, very much a part of this world again. So,
Absolutely.
and to be honest, I haven't seen much about the Asatru or Wiccans or any of the other pagan religions out there. So I thought it might be a really good opportunity
Yeah.
to talk with some of y'all and uh,
Absolutely.
help kind of see what's out there. And what I really do, I admire the Asatru faith as far as I understand it. It's so different than what I was raised with. No, no Ten
Yeah.
Commandments, no do or die mentality. It's just
Right.
it's strength, honor, trust, that type of thing. It's just some strong
Absolutely.
core values that are universally applicable, and as long as
Absolutely.
there's I'm just saying this. I don't know what else is below the surface, but just assuming there's no monsters in the closet, so to speak, then so
Right.
far it seems like it's a really good way to look at the world.
Yeah. Well, and I don't want to come off as condemning other faiths and religions and things like that. And I tell people all the time is like I don't have a problem with the teachings of the Bible. It's the followers that is the problem. It's once people put their own wants and needs and desires ahead of their faith is when things, in my opinion, gets tainted, and the true meaning of what it set out to be somehow just falls to the wayside.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned Wiccans, and you kind of talked in between paganism, Wiccanism, paganism and Wiccan, and
Mm-hmm.
that type of thing. Is there any, as far as the Asatru faith goes, is there any? Do you believe that there is the one true faith is the Asatru really is the true way to go about it, or do you kind of look at it more
No.
like there could be all these different gods, but these are just the ones that we worship? Or is this something else
What
entirely?
what I believe, and this is something, and I just to set this forth, I come from a Christian background too. I was raised Baptist. I went to Sunday school. I went to church every week up until I was about 10 years old, and it was at 10 when I started questioning things at church. And they don't like that.
No, they do not.
So literally at 10 years old, I was like, this is not for me. And I remember having a discussion with my parents that I didn't want to go back because I didn't believe in it and I didn't know. But what I can say is my belief is that all the different religions in the world are trying to explain the same thing. And I think the difference it all comes down to cultural perspectives. There's been a lot of studies that show that the Celtic gods and the Slavic gods out of Russia and the Germanic gods, that all of them, not only do they have similar names, they have similar stories around them. So I think really that all different religions are just cultural examples of people trying to explain the same thing. And the metaphor that I tell people about it too is that I believe that all religions of the world, the best way to describe it is each one of those different religions is like a river that flows to an ocean. And that ocean is God. They're all leading to the same thing. It's just different perspectives of the same thing, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. this is always just something I'm curious to know about. But like within the Asatru belief system,
Hmm.
I currently, as I sit, I'm an atheist. Oddly enough, I've been more intrigued by religion since I quit believing any of it than I ever
Yeah.
did when I was a part of it. But how does someone like me fare? And when this all comes to an end, according to your beliefs, like am I am I going to be damned
Forever
to
in
hell
limbo
in
or something
some
like
sense, or like do I get to go join the rest of everybody? Is it just about my virtues and how will I do in life? Like how's this?
Yeah. I think that, well, first of all, Asatru doesn't. Well, we do have hell, but our version of hell, there's no punishment. There's no afterlife, eternal punishment for being bad. There's actually followers of Asatru would actually want to go to hell, but ours only has one L, and that place is where all of your ancestors are. They live their life. They have no wants, no needs. Everything that they have is there, and they live for eternity together in peace. And I forget off subject, but you know most of your Christian-based religions, they believe in that punishment, but it's all about control. They want you to do something one specific way, and if you don't do it, they say, well, you're going to burn forever in eternal damnation. And scaring people into doing the right thing, in my opinion, is not how to do things. You want people to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do.
I fully
So,
agree.
so somebody that doesn't believe, I could be completely wrong. But my belief is that not having knowledge or belief in things, you're going to be judged by your actions, not by your actions and your deeds, not by what your beliefs specifically were, in my opinion.
Well, that's great to hear. There's at least one group of people out there that's not trying to throw us into the fire.
No.
But no, that's really good to hear. I'm glad to hear that because that's that is something that even I do, even though I don't really no I don't have belief in any of these things. It is still kind of
Hmm.
curious to know what the possibilities might be.
Sure.
So no,
Absolutely.
since I've been go ahead.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, while we're kind of on the topic of atheism, that kind of thing, like what really was it that led you to believe? You said you left Christianity and then found your way
Hmm.
to Asatru.
Yeah. What was it? It
Like
made me
what
do that.
yeah, like what convinced you that Asatru, that the Norse gods were the at least the best way of thinking about it for you? Because I know you kind of think that they all end up at the same place in the end.
Yeah. It was, well, like I said, I started with Wicca, and then following like a druid path. I was a follower of the Celtic god Carnunos, which is also known as the Horned God. Also believed to be the basis for the devil in Christianity, because he was a keeper of knowledge, a spreader of knowledge, and he was also the protector of of nature and of mankind and things like that. But I think I got off track. What was your
Oh, it's
question?
okay. Hey, we can run down a tangent real quick.
But I think that what my path, I had about maybe about 6 or 8 years of my life where I would have considered myself to be an atheist as well, but I always felt a pull towards nature and things like that, which kind of led me down the path to look into like more nature-based religions, and focus on my original focus was on the goddess and the god Cernunnos and things like that. But I'd always felt this pull towards the Norse gods, Thor and Odin and Freya specifically, and it was my looking into and researching the ancient Nordic beliefs that kind of led me down that path. Now, I will tell you, I still consider, I still, I make offerings to Cernunnos. I still do that. I still consider myself to be somewhat of a druid as well, but the druid part of me very easily translates into Asatru as well, because the Gothai, which was the ancient religious leader of the ancient Nordic people. The Gothai was not only was he a religious leader, he was a lawgiver. They traveled around. They were healers and things like that. And that I was really drawn to that. And I'm a voracious reader, so my library of books on paganism and heathenry is rather extensive, and I've always been one that has felt that you want to make an informed decision about your religion. I don't think it's right for anybody just to accept what everybody else is telling you what you should do, whether that's family, friends, or whatever. I think everybody should make their own educated decisions. And I will tell you, I probably know just about as much about the Bible as most people that would call themselves Christian. And that a lot of that doesn't come from me sitting down and reading the Bible every day, but it comes from the fact that a lot of things that are in the Bible are based on things that came from Asatru and from the original Celtic beliefs. I mean, every major holiday that Christians celebrate are originally pagan.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They did that as a way to assimilate and a way to get people to convert. Like, oh, so every December you have this pagan thing where you put up a tree and decorate it and things like that. Well, we have that. It's the birth of Christ. We celebrate that way too. And it's all so interrelated. So, yeah, that it just really it was all more about just me digging deeper and learning more and more about different pagan beliefs that led me to Asatru. And then when I discovered that I had some Norse blood in me as well, that kind of made sense to me. And like last year, my wife and I traveled to Iceland, and it truly felt like being in the land of the gods while we were there. And it just kind of even further solidified my belief system there. And we got to meet with members of the Asatru community in Iceland and spoke with them a lot. And, Iceland is one of the few places in the world where they can trace their history of Gothai and followers of Asatru back to the beginning. Because although Iceland converted officially, the Norse paganism continued underground there nonstop forever. So and there's still lots of original manuscripts and original texts, which, unfortunately we don't have that in a lot of other pagan belief systems because they were destroyed by conquerors.
Yeah.
And they were destroyed by people that were forcing people to convert or die. So, that's not the case, thankfully, in Iceland. There's still they've got texts that go back to the 800s. So it's like there's people there that can trace their family lines following Gothai back to those times, which is unique in a lot of pagan communities.
So for someone that might, be exploring religion and looking for the one that best fits them, I mean, how would someone go about? How could someone go about becoming an Asatru? Is there any texts you would read, or is there things you could go study?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, well, if I can tout the Asatru community a little bit, we're free to join. And even if you're just looking to find out more about it, once you're a charter member, you have access to tons of information that we have online through our website. And we have, something like 15 different Facebook pages or different groups. Everything. Well, we have different regional pages where fellow Asatruers get together, discuss things and stuff like that. But there's tons of books out there. Some of the ones that I would say are most important to our faith, the stories that can be found in the Poetic Edda, which were written and or compiled by Snorri Sturluson in the I don't want to get the dates incorrect here, but in the somewhere in the 1300s, 1100, 1300s times. I can't remember the dates off the top of my head, but those are stories not only about the Norse gods, but also about kings and important figures, some fictional, some factual, leaders of Asatru, going all the way back to what we would consider to be the beginning of time. There's two specific texts within the Poetic Edda that we focus a lot on. One of them is the Havamal, which is considered to be the teachings of Odin, and it's a poem that has 165 stanzas in it, and it's literally it talks about everything from being a good host in your home to protecting your family, to be wary of people with a sword behind their back and stuff like that. But it's all things that really still can be translated and read and understood today. The second one is called the Voluspa, which is considered to be the prophecies of the Cirrus. And the Cirrus is considered to be a witch that the Edda says that died and was resurrected 3 times because she was so powerful. And the Voluspa is, a lot of it is considered to be a discussion between Odin and this witch, and he is asking her questions about everything from the beginning of time to the end of time, which I'm sure most have heard the term Ragnarok, which that is what we consider to be the end of times, in which the gods return and fight against the god Surt, and the world ends but is reborn at the end of that. But those two texts, the Havamal and the Voluspa, are probably considered to be the two most important in our religious faith. And we have the Asatru Community. We've got our own version of it, which has 3 different. Each different stanza has 3 different interpretations of it, because we're taking this from, they're being translated from Old Norse and to English. It was Henry Bellows that translated a lot of this in the early 1800s from Great Britain. So we have his version of it, and then we have what we consider to be our version of what each one of these means and things like that too. But those would be, I would say, the most important in our faith. I mean, there's not like a Bible. We don't have like one book is Bible. What I tell a lot of people that I meet that ask about it is, I tell them the Asatru is the religion with homework, because it's definitely more accessible than it's ever been as far as learning about the faith with the different texts and books and things that are out there. But there's a lot. There's a lot of reading and a lot of things you have to do to learn and understand and kind of see from the perspective of the original founders of Asatru and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
We have more than one book.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
That's good. That's good to say that. Yeah. No, I didn't think there was like one sacred text per se, but
right.
It's good for people to know where they can go and what they can look into to learn about things like this. So that's definitely something I'll be.
Absolutely.
I've taken a couple notes there to keep those down. So maybe when I get the chance, I can get one or two of them. And
excellent.
I don't really have a whole lot else that I can think to ask right now. We're about
I can tell you another
possible
another
recording time.
Okay. Another thing I can tell you that we really focus on too is, and it's something that I believe strongly in, is that we have a real strong presence within active duty and retired military members, and I really think that, and a lot of people feel the same way, that Asatru it's a warrior religion. I mean, it was founded by Vikings. Now, most people, when you say Viking, they think that every Norse person was a Viking, but Viking was a trade, just like being a fisherman was a trade. They went Viking, and what Viking meant was to go and explore new lands and liberate people from their gold.
Yeah.
That was a trade. So, but Asatru's a warrior religion, and I really feel that it resonates well with a lot of our military members, and we have a strong presence in the military. We've got currently have active duty lay leaders in, I think we're up to 4 bases in the United States now: Fort Benning, Fort Hood, where just like your Baptist or Catholic service on Sunday, if you're in that base and you're interested in Asatru, you can sit down with other followers of Asatru, and they hold services there every week as well. And we support them. We have a clergy training course where we teach people, and we at the end of the course they can be fully ordained as a clergy member within the Asatru community, which is a legal tender in all 50 states. We offer free copies of the Have 'em All to active duty service members and first responders. All they have to do is send us a message if they want one, and we'll ship it to them wherever they're at. But that they're a large focus of what we do as well. I can tell you, we've got 9 members of our board, and myself included. There's 5, I believe, that are former military in the group as well. So that's a big focus of what we do as well.
t- I don't know. I'm kind of
And
running
we're
out of.
currently, well, I should also mention, since this would be out there on the internet and somebody could actually help us out with this, we're working on publishing our own version of the Voluspa as well, which we will add to the same program where we'll ship free copies of that to active duty people. And we have a GoFundMe page where people can donate. We need to gather about $3,000 to be able to do the first print run of them, things like that. So we've got a GoFundMe page for that, and we've got all kinds of advertisements on Facebook as well to help us get that published.
Is there anywhere else people can go to help you all out, or other things you're trying to accomplish?
That's our main focus right now, is working on getting that published. But yeah, you should be able to, anybody that is interested in assisting us with that, you can just search for the Asatru Community and GoFundMe. There are advertisements for it as well. We have an open page on Facebook, which is through the Asatru Community Inc. And when I say open page, is you don't have to be a member to view that page. So we do have advertisements for it there as well. And all of our other social media pages, you basically have to be a member to have access to them. And that's to protect ourselves because, we have had a lot of issues in the past with trolls, because there are people out there that take offense to us being universalist because of their racist views. So that's why we have to kind of keep things locked down.
All right, so they can find people can find you on Facebook. They can find you on GoFundMe. They can support the book you're working on. If they want to get in touch, they can visit the website, which is the asatrucommunity.org.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
And then, on that site, can they find?
There's plenty of information on there that they can access before becoming a member. That just tells everybody everything really about Asatru in general. But they can definitely, the asatrucommunity.org, tons of information on there. If sounds like something you're interested in, even if it's just to learn more, free to become a charter member, sign up, and you'll get access to all of our many pages and fun stuff.
All right, that sounds great. All right, is there anything else you want to add real quick before we wrap this up?
No, I think I pretty much covered it all.
All right. Well, hey, it was great speaking with you. Maybe we can get in touch again later down the road.
Absolutely.
Revisit the issue. Maybe once
Sure.
my listeners have grown to a point where it would be of more use. But this has been an amazing conversation, amazing first podcast. I'm very glad that you were able to get on here and talk with me. And
absolutely. Thank you for reaching out to me, and much success moving forward.
Yep. Hey, thank you, and to you as well.
All right. You have a good day.
All right. You too. All right, well, that was Mr. Henry from the Asatru Community, the president of the Asatru Community. If you have any questions for me, you can email me at TheLayman'sQuery@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook, or you can find my website by the same name. I discuss religion, education, politics, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, if you have any questions, just get a hold of me. If you want to be on the podcast or write something down in the blog or write something for the blog, go ahead and send it to me at that email. You can get in touch in a number of ways. So with that said, this has been Godless Inquiry. I'm out.